Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And biggest news of the week, of course, are the dev blogs when it comes to the structure. So CCP is doing the first announcements about the drilling platforms. I think it's pretty interesting, but in general, I have to say, I like the idea of pulling out a chunk of a moon and then turning that into belts. I actually think that that's one of those ideas that has always floated around when it comes to changing moon mining and making it more active. I am a little bit disappointed by two things. First of all, the resources, it doesn't look like they're going to deplete in the moons. I actually think that they should, so that they switch around a little bit the situations in nullsec. Although I can understand that EVE is big on empire building and keeping everything in the set position. Well, it makes things a little bit harder, but at least you can build an empire on some valuable moons. So that's one thing. I would still like to see maybe some sort of depletion mechanic, so that it's not always the very best space to the most powerful group. But alright, doesn't look like that's going to happen. And the second one is that it's going to be a nullsec exclusive. In fact, it's looking like it's going to be an exclusive for moons that can currently be mined, which I think is also very disappointing. I would say don't give the other moons Tech 2 materials, but give them Tech 1 minerals and make that as a little bit of a way to balance out some of the mineral bottlenecks. I actually think that there's a bit of a solution to be seen there, but I'm probably going to make a full video on the idea that I would implement to get this kind of moon mining into HiSec and into wormhole space. Definitely wormhole space. I actually think that those guys should have that as well. But we are here for the market, of course, and as always, we are going to start off with plex. That's going to be at 2 minutes 5 seconds. There we go. And the few plex that were still at 1,199,000,000 have been snagged up while I was doing my introduction. So plex are now selling for 1,200,000,000. The bars are up to 1,147,000,000. We can see on the chart that we are going up substantially here all of a sudden. After a bit of hesitation last week, now we're just blowing straight through the 1.2 billion mark on the seller side of things. This comes as a little bit of a surprise to me, but I do think that this is basically just speculation and a bit of hype riding as well. They're seeing plex going up so much, they know that there is stuff going on with plex. I'm not sure if everyone is fully aware of the flood of extra plex that are going to come to the market because of the Aurum conversion, while on one hand, a lot of people say, you know, you shouldn't underestimate the amount of accounts that have less than 1,000 Aurum and that are basically not very active. You know, some of those throwaway little accounts that are being made constantly. I personally think you should also not underestimate the amount of people that have serious Aurum balances because they've been playing the game for a very long time and are basically never used them, never even bother with them, and for who this Aurum and the plex that they're going to receive from that is not even on their mind at the moment. And a lot of that I do think will flow to the market. So I actually think that plex is set to take a pretty serious dive at this point when that change actually hits the servers, or maybe even when it's announced in full detail for everyone to read about. So for me personally, this 1.2 billion, it's a bit of speculation, a bit of hype, and a bit of a mistake as well, but I am of course going to try and sell a few plex on that mistake. Anything above 1.2 billion at the moment I think is pretty good, because I have bought a few plex at like 900 million, and of course I got an incredible gift as well, which was 28 of my plexes as well, which are free. So all of that is pure profit. I'm going to take my time, maybe sell one or two at just above the 1.2 billion mark, and after that I'm gonna see if we're going to go even higher. Then of course I'm going to continue to offload some of my current plexes, because I personally see this as a bit of a mistake, but The pattern is clear. People are pouring ISK into the Plex market, which if you've taken a look at the ticker below, you can see that we're in this pretty unusual situation where only Plex are going up, everything else is going down. I suspect my extra material, which is going to be advanced moon materials, are going up as well. And in this scenario, there is one very important thing that you have to remember about the ETH economy. Last time we got actual numbers from CCP, FanFest a couple of years ago, I think, there is still 3 times more stuff in ETH Online than there is ISK to put against that. So if you would value everything at the market values, you would need 3 times more ISK in order to be able to buy everything up. This means that on speculation, you do have this weird effect where a couple of items or a couple of markets are going up sharply. People want in on that hype. People want in on what's happening there. They're pouring a lot of ISK in there, which means fewer purchases in other markets, such as possibly minerals, ships, even Tech 3 ships. Even the Tengu still going down at this point is really surprising me. And fuel's taking a little bit of a drop back as well is not all of that surprising, because of course there just isn't enough ISK out there to float everything up. If a couple of markets are going up substantially, that means that a few others have to go down just because of the sheer amount of stuff that is out there. So I think it's actually pretty interesting, but I'm looking to sell at the current Plex prices, although I will do so very carefully. Next up, we have the multiple pilot training certificate. Very similar chart, of course, currently selling for 1,220 million. So if you're looking for those sales above 1.2 billion, that's a decent sign. Buyers are at 1,110 million. That's quite a wide margin. So this is obviously, of course, a much smaller market. One thing I keep forgetting this. Let's check perimeter. Sellers are up to 1,171 million in the perimeter trade hubs. There are quite a few of them, so we can see quite a bit of activity on the seller markets. People still trying to unload their Plex. The volumes, well, here 15, 17, that's not bad. 10, 11. Another 10 right here, 15 right here. Yeah, it's quite a few Plex that are being sold, basically going from the 1.2 billion in the Jita market all the way down to 1,171. And for the buyers, do they go up? Not that much, from 1,147 million up to 1,152 million. So at the moment, it's pretty obvious that there is actually a little bit of sell competition, but basically there are enough people just snagging up all of these plexes to increase the price substantially. And I might want to get in on some of that feeding frenzy at the moment. Next up, the pilot body resculpt. This is quite to be expected, a very, very sharp dive down here, because CCP at the moment is selling those at 50% off for Aurum. Basically, CCP has announced that they're going to start giving special discounts on and special deals in the Aurum store, so that people have a chance to get rid of their Aurum as much as possible. You know, 50% of pilot body resculpts, it could definitely be a pretty good investment, but the price reacts quite quickly. It'll take a lot of time to unload if you buy a lot of these body resculpts, but who knows, maybe this is actually the right time to spend your Aurum on that. The effect on the market is quite immediate here. We've got huge volumes, and then you have this crashing down of the price, of course. So a couple of people obviously took the deal, 50% off, sold them to the market, and now we're probably being flooded by these things. Well, flooded is maybe a lot to say, although you can see here that basically there was nothing left, and now everybody's point whining each other here at 240 million ISK. Next up, we've got the skill extractors going up in tandem with Plex. That is of course to be expected. Currently selling for 273 million almost. Buyers are at 264 million. And sell volumes, let's take a look at that. In the last 24 hours, yeah, that's actually quite a lot. Going from 276 million to 273 million. We've seen much wider spreads over 24 hours, but these are a lot of them that are being sold. So I'm seeing this as there is activity on both sides. There is strong demand for a lot of investment opportunities, seeing as Plex are going up, but there are a lot of people as well that are trying to sell their extractors at this point. Next up, we've got skill injectors. I think under all of that action, it's normal that they're going up a little bit. They had to give back a little bit of ground here. You can see since basically second half of February, volumes are still up. Maybe here in the last few weeks we can see that trending down as the price has gone down a little bit as well. But overall the skill injector market still seems pretty high. 675 million almost for the sellers, 640 million for the buyers. Volume wise in the last 24 hours, not a lot coming to the market, so I guess that people are holding on to their skill injectors, and that is why we're going up in price a little bit. A lack of supply, quite interesting, a little bit unexpected actually. So last 24 hours, just a couple of them coming to the market at 674.2 or 0.3 million ISK. Okay. Why would people be hesitating on bringing those skill injectors to the market? Maybe because they know that the skill extractors are going up in price quite substantially, and they want to hold on. They want to see more bang for their buck as skill extractors go up in price, and if skill injectors don't follow suit, the skill point farms become less effective, their value and their margins drop, and so maybe they're actually holding out for either a pullback for the extractors or a higher price for skill injectors before dumping the ones that they're creating at the moment. That's definitely a possibility. Next up we have some minerals at 11 minutes. Okay. Let's take a look here at titanium. After a pretty sharp increase in price up to 4.4, we are going back down just a little bit, so there's obviously hesitation. I think that there are other forces at play. As I've said, a lot of people are trying to ride some hype trains up on the plex market, probably Moon Materials as well. Maybe we'll have to see, but as a result, less is moving into the cheap minerals. Well, they're not at the bottom anymore, and so a bit of hesitation is normal. There's titanium is selling for 4.41 ISK. The buyers are at 432, very narrow margin. What we can see is that both sides are coming in with big volumes. 1.5 billion here, a billion here, almost a billion here, another 2 billion at 4.5 ISK. On the buyer side, 2 billion here for 432, another 1.5 billion at 432. Seems to be a little bit more supply than demand at the moment, but that is actually decently normal after this decently sharp rise as well over the course of 3 to 4 weeks. Next up here we've got pyrite, very similar chart, bit of hesitation as well, and then going back down towards 5 ISK. Here we actually almost reached 6 ISK, I think. 604 for the sellers, 557 for the buyers. That's quite surprising. And we see the actual price at 6, so we're actually possibly going back up a little bit right here on maybe these higher volumes from yesterday. And when it comes to the sellers, 500,000, 200,000, 200 million, 500 million, 363 million. On the buyers, 500 million, 500 million here. Again, decently balanced in my opinion when it comes to the pyrite market. So it looks like we're actually going to hesitate at the current price points. Let's see what Mexalon is doing. That one is actually giving background a little bit after another pretty sharp increase. What was the very top? 82 ISK for Mexalon, not bad at all. Again, if you are mining in HiSec, you want to focus on asteroids that yield some Mexalon. Still selling for 81.46. Buyers are at 75.44, well above the norm, and a 1-year high for Mexalon pretty much at the moment compared to all the other HiSec materials, or minerals I should say. This one is of course the clear winner. Isogen next for the loser brackets here. Same pattern, a bit of hesitation as well at the tail end, but at least we're staying well above the bottom for now at around 50 ISK. Isogen selling for 51.4 ISK, and the buyers are at 47.6. Supply wise, we see one sell order of 78 million, and on the buyer side though, 100 million here, 45 million right here. A bit more demand than supply in Isogen, which is why it's not crashing down that much, and the 20-day moving average can slowly keep going up. That'll probably balance out at some point, but at least there's one of them that is not falling back below the 20-day moving average. And then we've got Noxium here, still doing really nicely as well compared to its bottom price, of course. So that's a pretty sharp increase. The fact that we're hesitating at the tail end is pretty normal. Selling for 359 ISK, buyers are at 346 ISK. The volumes could be interesting. selling here 1.2 million, 3.2 million, another 7 million, another 9 million. This is going from 360 to 358, so not that much movement and decent supply. Buyers at 7.7 million, 3 million, another 10 million, 5 million here. Decently balanced. Again, these high-tech minerals, they look to be set for a bit of a sideways movement, trying to find that balance, but it looks like people are actually doing that. There's enough of them willing to sell at this point and enough people still willing to buy at this point as well, that we are finding a new price range at the moment. Next up for nullsec, we've got Zydrine still under pressure. I'm actually a little bit surprised by that. 983, so 985 for the sellers. They dove below 1000 ISK, yep, and the buyers are at 956, so you can clearly buy Zydrine for less than 1000. Is that good? Well, if you look at the entire chart here, for less than 1000, it's actually a pretty good time to buy if you looking at this from a 1-year chart perspective. A possible thing is that after the Rorcal nerf, they're basically forced into focusing a little bit more on the nullsec minerals, which is probably still the best ISK per hour, the best ISK per cubic meter as well. And this could be the reason why we're seeing a little bit of pressure on the nullsec minerals at the moment, because megasite is also slowly going down in quite a jaggedy chart, but we're clearly constantly trying out new lower prices below 1400. Currently selling for 1362 ISK. Buyers are at 1316 ISK. Supply wise here in the last 24 hours, full front page 2 million, 1.6 million, 1.6 million, 1.7 million. The buyers much lower in volumes here, so obviously megasite is also being oversupplied just like Zydrine and is under pressure at the moment, probably due to a bit more specialized mining happening in nullsec now that they can't just eat up belts in a record time, including all of the high-sec minerals that were available there. So finally we have more fights. Let's take a look at that one. It's hesitating, basically moving sideways just below the 10,000 ISK. Sellers 9,490, so 9,500 pretty much. Buyers 8,778, less than 9,000 on the buyer side of things. We can also see still 256,000, 600,000 here, 220,000 on the buyers, 10,000, 15,000, 60,000. Much more supply than demand still happening here. Pretty wide margin as well. If you'd be looking for an investment, then I think more fight below 9,000 is definitely a good possibility. Okay, that's it for the minerals. Moving on to PI materials at 1735. For some reason I have decent energy, we're making good time. Let's start out with the construction blocks. After a little bit of a pullback, maybe 10 days ago or something like that, we're actually going back up in between the high point and the low point here, so a bit of a resurgence. Basically what we can say is that we're not at 1-year high, but we're definitely above average for construction blocks, selling for 13,000 ISK. Buyers are at 12,700. This is not a bad time to still be selling, because as we can see right here, we're definitely above average. Consumer electronics next, working on a 1-year high, quite interesting. Yesterday or today so far. Can I grab this one? Nope, sometimes it bugs out a little bit. This is quite surprising. You can see the lack of supply here. 17,600 for consumer electronics. That is quite low. Another 15,000 units getting bought and we're almost up to 18,000 units. Buyers have gone up to 16,000. It's only one, but for 38,000 units, that's quite substantial. So consumer electronics are obviously a major winner, and we could have bought these babies just in January for 10,000 ISK, which was below average. I didn't make a move on that. Obviously, looking at the chart here, a bit of a mistake. So clearly we have to keep a closer eye on some of those PI materials, because the swings are really nice. Buying for 10,000, currently selling for 17,000. You'll get rid of that right away. 70% profit doesn't sound that bad to me, even if it is before the taxes, that CCP levies on all of this. But yeah, not bad, and a very sharp increase in price here all of a sudden, up to 17,600. People that have consumer electronics or make consumer consumer electronics. Don't waste this opportunity, bring your stuff to the market, is what I would say. Coolants next, finally cooling down a little bit. Probably part of the reason why fuel blocks went so high is because coolants went up to 16,000 ISK at a 1-year high just about 1.5 months ago. Now they're back down to 13,800 ISK for the sellers, 13,000 for the buyers. Still above average. I would put the average at 12,500, something like that is probably a more normal trade range. But it's obvious that people have been producing a lot of coolants, bring them to the market, crashing down the price a little bit. So still an okay price to sell, but obviously the best sell opportunity is over by now. Enriched uranium, are we seeing the same trend here? Not yet, but we are seeing the top forming basically at the a little bit above the current trade range. So sellers are at 17,900 ISK, buyers 17,500 ISK. It's still really good to bring and make enriched uranium here because you're getting a fantastic price for that. But just look at the coolant chart here. Expect 1 month to go by and us to give back ground quite substantially towards 15,000 ISK. That's my personal expectation. I think it's only normal. People will start to move away from coolants into other really high markets, and enriched uranium is obviously one of those. Mechanical parts next, still slowly climbing. This is a pretty unusual chart because we're basically talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months straight of climbing up for mechanical parts. That is definitely quite unusual. Average price around here 8,700 ISK. Average price around here, if I can just grab one. Nope, just doesn't want to do that on the latest ones. But alright, 8,700 buying around 7 months ago, currently selling for 15,900 is pretty much a doubling of the price. Well, a little bit less than that, but still 90% or something like that. Profit, not bad at all. Buyers 15,200, well above average as well. If you have some barren planets producing mechanical parts, bring those to the market. I really should do so as well. Really incredible chart. It shows that the PI market can be both very fast. Just look at consumer electronics here, 2 months, really nice profit here, but also very slow. With quite a long bottom here over the entire summer, which was also a very unique thing to mechanical parts. Very weak summer. A lot of the other PI materials had a very strong summer, but that would have been an incredible chance to build up a lot of mechanical parts for less than 9,000 ISK throughout the summer, and then currently you're just selling that straight off the market for almost 16,000 ISK. Really, really an incredible market so far. Here is oxygen, pretty bad news here, massive drop off to 400 ISK, probably pulling this one to a little bit below average. So again, this is gonna put a little bit of pressure on the fuel prices as well, which for me is good news because I need a lot of fuel for all of my services. But we're seeing massive dumping here, obviously. So in just like a week or even less than that, we're going from almost 500 ISK down to 412 ISK for the sellers, 403 for the buyers. Oxygen taking a pretty serious dive. Robotics next, also the top has basically formed here at almost 130,000 ISK. Now we're slowly going down at 120,000 ISK, still a very good price for robotics. 112 for 113 for the buyers here, still holding quite strong, but I do think that we'll start to see these guys under pressure a little bit, especially if more ISK is starting to flow to other markets like the plex market and like the moon minerals. Next up here we've got rocket fuel. After a little bit of a dip, still holding quite strong. The median daily price are still all over the place. This is really weird. Here 16.3k and then down to 12.6k, and it's constantly all over the chart, which to me feels quite weird. But rocket fuel 14,000 ISK for the sellers, 13.6 for the buyers, still well above average at the moment. Next up we've got self-harmonizing power cores. Quite a bit of a surprise on the one hand, because the drilling rigs are still a way out, but I think that this is basically the dev block speaking here with a bit of an increase in price. Currently selling for 2.5 million, buyers are at 2.3 million. I think basically that they're jumping the gun a little bit. I don't think that we're going to see the drilling rigs before the summer. I think it's going to be something for fall, if I'm not mistaken. That's what we saw announced so far by CCP. So I actually think that we'll have plenty of time for this to fall back towards 2 million again. But you know, it's also a fact that when the drilling rigs come out, especially now that we know that the price range is going to be set between the citadels and the engineering complexes, is gonna take a substantial amount of these advanced PI materials as well, and so maybe a little bit of early purchasing is actually normal, considering that we were going down towards and below 2 million. Superconductors next, under pressure, quite a bit of surprise. I would say that at 12.2k we're moving below average. For that one, still 13,700 for the sellers, that's above average. 11,700, that's maybe a little bit below average. Quite a wide spread on superconductors, a bit oversupplied as well. 429,000 units, that's quite a lot. That is going to, of course, stop the price from going up anytime soon. And I would say that if you have the patience and you try to sell here, you're still selling at an okay price, but we're almost in an interesting buy order territory at 11,700. If that dips lower, below 11k, I think we could actually start buying up some superconductors. Too bad for me, because I'm actually producing those guys. Test cultures next. I was looking at that as a bit of a buy opportunity, and apparently I was not alone. 7,500 has triggered a little bit of interest in the market. 7,800 for the buyers, 8,200 for the sellers. Still, if you think about the consumer electronics markets, test culture is something that you do want to invest a little bit in if you want to ride the PI waves. And I think I'm going to do that. If I look at this entire chart, we're definitely still at a decently low price. Who knows when it's gonna come back? Maybe the trigger here for self-harmonizing power cores could help test culture a little bit. So it would still be, I think, okay to risk a buy order of test culture. I think I did that last week myself. Wetware mainframe next, also a little bit of a jump, quite a bit more timid than the power cores though. Still the 20-day moving average hasn't been shaken that much. 2.5 million for wetware mainframes, 2.365 for the buyers, and still 2,000 of them being sold here as well. So this is going to keep this a little bit under control. Again, as I've said, I think that this is a little bit, again, just like with plexus, of people jumping the gun, because we're not set to see these new set of structures anytime soon, to be honest. So there we go, PI, pretty interesting market so far. I'm really happy to have added this part to Eve Talk because, well, there's definitely money to be made in that market, and it's a very interesting one. Next up, we've got Take One chips, 2720. That is unfortunately going to be a little bit less interesting because as high-sec materials are hesitating or maybe even pulling back a little bit on pyrite, for instance, I think that we'll basically see a bit of hesitation here as well. What is clear is the lack of demand at the moment in Take One chips, so 144 million for the Apocalypse, very, very cheap. 154 million for the sellers, very cheap as well. But we have very low minerals, so you can actually produce these and still make maybe a little bit of money on the current prices. Still the trend, you know, in the Take One market is obvious, a lack of demand and under pressure from minerals, so we are currently trading well below average for these ships. Here is the bellicose chart. There's not much to say except that we did jump up just a little bit on a massive volume spike here. These are selling for 8.2 million, buyers are 6.7 million, quite a wide margin here. If you look at the supply, you've got a couple hundred at least. The buyers here, basically, we don't have that many, maybe 100 bellicose being bought, including 50 of course, at less than a million. So that is stuff that's not really counting as demand. We got 32.6 and then just a couple other in the tens, but that's really it, and it's at 6.7 million. I think that this exemplifies the lack of demand. All of these can be considered opportunistic buy orders. If you can pick up a bellicose at 6.7 million, that's maybe even gonna make you a little bit of money if you can sell it at 8. Next up here we get the Breacher, also still under pressure actually, so currently selling for 423,000 ISK, buyers at 350,000 ISK, and we can see no demand, almost no supply. You're just not making money at the current prices. which maybe the changes to the moon mining could switch things up a little bit if it will actually turn out to be a bottleneck for Tech 2 production. The real question, of course, is how much is going to be produced from this new mechanic compared to the current rate. That is probably going to determine a lot of the actual impact on the game. So here the Brutix actually, quite interesting, going up above 50 million here all of a sudden. Pretty sharp. Volume wise, we're not really noticing that all that much. So selling for 52 million, bars are at 45 million. And maybe everything below 52 million, must have been bought out, because it's only excuse me, in the last 24 hours that fresh Brutixes are coming in below 52 million. So maybe it's just that there weren't that many. I think that's definitely a possibility, but that someone did decide to buy every Brutix below 52 million ISK. Next up here, we've got the Catalyst, still hesitating. Are we still selling for less than a million? No, just a bit above that, 1,056,000 ISK, and the bars at 930,000 ISK. But yeah, pretty flat chart, well below the yearly average. As I've said, there is not that much demand, and the minerals having tanked isn't gonna do these guys any favors. Cormorant is one of these exceptions. You can see that it's currently still trading at 1.4 million. Bars are at 1.250, which is because the Cormorant got this nice update here, and so that gives it a little bit of hype, and which allows its market to be well above average. I think if you can make Cormorants at current prices, if you would calculate the margins, you're probably making a decent amount of money, because we can see right here that these have traded for 1 million as well, 400,000, so like a 40% markup to its bottom. Considering the current mineral prices, probably the one winner, and it is of course because we saw the change to its model. Next up, the Crucifier. This is obviously well below average and still under pressure. Lack of demand is completely exemplified here, 181,000 for the buyers. It's just opportunistic buy orders. And then the supply, well, it's trickling in, 375 coming in here at 213,000 ISK. You're not making a lot of money on this. The Drake next, a little bit of a jump up as well, and a little bit of volume spike as well. So let's take a look here. Can we grab this? 41.5 million, let's remember that. Currently 45.2 million, so a little bit of a markup, and 41.5 for the buyers. I think that someone basically came in, bought Drakes below 44 million, something like that, which is extremely cheap, clearly a one-year low, bumped it up a little bit, but I think the pressure is just going to continue. General demand is just too low. Another battle cruiser, by the way, that jumps up a little bit. Here's the Retriever after jumping up decently substantially, probably under our call changes. We are now set to be under pressure once again. 21 million for the sellers, 19.5 for the buyers. It's basically finding its trade range well below average. And then finally the Tempest, another battleship, after its jump up, probably a buyout with this volume spike here, which is only 44 ships. Keep that in mind, again showing the lack of interest in Tech 1 at the moment, from 130 million to 170, and again they spot this opportunity, and you can see in like the last 3-4 days they're coming in from 170, 160 straight away, 159, 157, 152, 150, and here we go, we're already under pressure quite substantially, because all of this, considering the cheap minerals, still makes you a little bit of money. They're willing to undercut like crazy on their Tempests, because, well, there just isn't the demand and the market for it to sustain higher prices at the moment. Quite unfortunate, but that's just the situation we find ourselves in. It's also very much possible that Tech 1 has moved out of the trade hubs substantially with the Rorcal changes. I think that Nullsec has become a lot more self-sustaining when it comes to the Tech 1 economy. Next up, Tech 2 ships at 3350. This could be interesting considering the dev blog that dropped but I think that it's going to take a little bit of time for those announcements and the possible waves to actually reach the ship market. We still have quite a few intermediary markets that will need to absorb everything. So here we have the Aries. You had a slight buy opportunity at 21.7 million, then a sell opportunity at 25. So not gonna make you great money, but here we can see the pullback, and if you can buy for less than 21, which you can buy at 20 million, it's maybe not a bad time. We can see massive dumping in the last 24 hours, 25, 14, 12, 16, 17, 443, 53 again. This could be the right time to try and pick up a couple of cheap Arieses. Next up, the Claw. After last week, I think I said you might want to buy here with the 21 million average price. Here we go, sharply up, 27 million for the sellers, still 20.3 million for the buyers, but yeah, I think I have 2 claws myself, which would make me a little bit of risk if I would sell it right now. Not bad, showing again alive, 1, 2, since January, 1, 2, 3 spikes, and this one, let's hope that it can substantiate itself a little bit, showing that the Tech 2 market is at least alive for the smaller ships. The Crow next, here again, 2 decent spikes, not all that great, but we're again falling back to 23 million. Sellers 21.3 million, buyers again, a lot of supply coming in, pushing the prices to a very bottom. I think that this could be quite interesting if you can still pick them up at, let's say, 21.5 million or something like that. So interesting, buy Crows, possibly buy Aries' Claws. You want to sell them if, like I did, you bought a couple in the last 2 weeks. Aries next, after, well, trading for quite a while, well below its average at bottom prices, finally going back up a little bit. So we had a great opportunity during several months to buy these Aries interdictors for, let's see if I can grab this. Nope, it really doesn't want to, but it's probably gonna be 35, 34 million, something like that. And now, well, they're basically bought out. You can sell them for 45 million, just like that. Buyers are still at 32 million. So let's see if I can finally grab one of these. Yep, 35, 36 million. You could have bought these Aries. Currently, you can easily bring to the market for between 40 and 45 million. So it finally happened. It just took quite a bit of time for this market to come back. Flycatcher next, quite a bit of volume here as well, and then going up substantially, selling for 71 million. Really good price for Flycatchers, especially if you could have bought these for like 55 million not too long ago. Heretic next, lovely. This is great to see the chart alive like this. Buy opportunity, 44 million, 44.7 million, currently trading for 55 million. Let's hope that it can get under pressure. The supply just isn't there yet, so it's still a great time to sell Heretics. But it's good to see these swings here, because that means that you can make some money trading, and I'm gonna make my first few isks on the Claw myself. Next up here we've got the Hound, really good as well after this sustained downvote. Did I tell you guys to buy Hounds? I'm not exactly sure, because it was still a little bit above where I like to see it, 20 million, just around there, but currently selling for 23 million. That's actually not enough to make some money. So did we actually jump up here? We did jump up to 25 million. That's a decent one, 25%, but unfortunately we're just a couple of days late and we're already on the downtrend. Next up we've got the Malediction chart, also going to test some more low prices at the moment on pretty fierce supply. 20.6 million for the buyers. On the chart still, I would say, still a little bit high historically speaking, so I'd be hesitant. Manticore next, also shooting up a little bit. We had bottom price at 23 million, currently selling for 25. Again, not enough. What was the actual peak? Not that much more. Yeah, so no, you're not actually going to get a trade out of this, but the buy opportunity at 23 million on average is over. Nemesis still sticking between high and a low point, so I don't like this one at the moment. Purifier is under pressure, so this one is going to try, I think, to form a buy opportunity. Are we below 20 at the bars? Yep, 19.7. We can see the supply here. We can see the lack of demand. If you can buy purifiers at 20 or just below that, I think you're doing a really good deal. Again, don't come in with a buy order of 100 purifiers. Try to buy a couple and that way you actually have a good idea of maybe being able to purchase a couple of purifiers, keep a feel of the market, and then on the next markup try and sell them for a profit. I think purifier looks interesting, Crow and Aries as well. And finally here we've got a Saber. That's a nicely volatile chart. This is what we do want to see. 51 million, peaks up to 67 million. And we keep playing with that bottom at 51 million. We're back up here, currently selling for 58.5 million, bars at 52.5. So if you bought some Sabers on this dip, it's the time to sell. It's good to see that at least there is some action in the Tech 2 market, and I think with the changes to moon mining, where supply can be disrupted more easily, where you can also steal stuff, where it's going to bring everything at the forefront as well, this could possibly change the dynamics to the Tech 2 market. And I'll be honest, more risk, more uncertainty, I think it's going to add to the volatility, which could be great for the Tech 2 markets. We might even be interested in cruisers and things like that, which have actually been way too stable. But these small ships show enough volatility to maybe find some trades. Hopefully it can get even better with the moon mining changes. Next up, the Tech 3 market at 40.15. Let's go over these. Unfortunately, I'm not expecting a lot here either. Here's the Confessor, still way oversupplied at around 30 million. And still some pretty massive stocks to go through before this changes, but it's maybe an opportunity to buy cheap Confessors here. Next up, we've got the Hecate. Oh, jumping up quite substantially, currently selling for 48 million, almost 40 million for the buyers. And remember, I bought a couple of Hecates right here at 29 million. So the first one to jump up right here, here it is, the Hecate. It had to happen, right? I mean, I was not sure, but it had to happen. So I've got a couple of Hecates that I bought at 29 million. I can easily sell them for 45 million. That's a bit of money made right there. This should give you a little bit of courage to pick up a couple of extra Confessors as well, if you're looking at what just happened with the Hecate right here. Next up, we've got the Jackdaw, currently on the way up, 27 million. You could have bought them for that price last week. 40 million, big buyouts happening right here, which is maybe a part of some ISK flows as well. Quite interesting. And here we've got this Vapel, still selling for 30 million with 604. You can still probably pick up a couple of Vapels and Jackdaws. I'm definitely gonna sell my Hecates, just it would be crazy not to on this quick trade. And here for the Jackdaws, it may be a bit early. That's all up to you to decide. If you think that the Hecate is actually where the potential lies, 46 million should be possible, then it's a bit early for the Jackdaw. But if you, like me, you bought at 27 and 29 million, then you're already making decent amount of money, and you should maybe try to get rid of a couple at this point. Keep in mind, of course, a spike like that does correct quite substantially. The real question is going to be how sharply are we going to go down? But finally some volatility and great opportunity in the Hecate for you to try and unload a couple. Again, if you have hundreds of these, you're gonna have a problem. If you have a couple of them, I think you're making some money. Next up, the cruisers. Here is the Legion, still under pressure, buying 129, selling 120. It's been really hard actually to pick up these Tech 3 cruisers from the buyers, I have to be honest. So these are not really bottom prices, in the sense that you have to mark it up several million in order to pick them up pretty easily, but we can clearly see that we are at pretty low prices. Here's the Loki, 1 year low, absolutely. 115 million for the sellers, 105 for the buyers. Should be able to pick up Lokis at 110, which honestly should be a really good trade if you don't go crazy. Don't buy billions of these ships, billions worth of these ships, but a couple of them, I do think you're making good trades here. Proteus next, trying to climb up just a little bit, selling for 133, buying at 125. I think that at least this can potentially be done for the Loki, and then hopefully we'll actually see some volatility. But yeah, Tengu still under pressure as well, 117, 127 for the sellers. 1 year low once again. So I would look to sell the Hecates that I've bought, I would look to sell the Jackdaws that I've bought, I would look to buy 1 or maybe 2 Lokis, and I would look to buy 1 or maybe 2 Tengus as well at the moment, because these are clearly at 1-year lows. At some point that is going to come back. And then for advanced moon materials, 44 minutes. Let's see if we can spot some movements there. That could be interesting. So manufacturing, it could be uninteresting as well. So we'll see. Let's see. What are we looking for? Reaction, I think. Advanced moon materials. So here we go. Crystalline carbonite. A bit of movement, but it's really not all of that. All of that strange. Although we were clearly at the bottom price at 172 in January, we shot up to almost 200, and now we're going back down. So this is too early for the dev blocks. Maybe a bit of speculation. Honestly, I would not be surprised if there was a lot of speculation on all of this. If it was ever gonna drop, it was gonna be this FanFest or just before that. And so I've also said, you know, keep an eye on these moon materials. Try to find those buy opportunities. It could make you a lot of money if you're willing to risk it. What I am seeing here though is a bit of a pullback after the dev blog basically. And what that could indicate is that people still don't know, which would make sense because we don't know how much material is going to be created by this new mechanic. So we could still end up with much more supply, much more easy supply of Tick 2 materials as well. It all depends on what CCP is going to do. And I read one comment that considering what we've been seeing in the mineral market, for instance, with the Orca changes, the Orcal changes, the buffs, the changes to the low tier miners as well. At the moment, it looks like CCP is willing to flood the ETH economy with a lot of material. And so a lot of people would not be surprised if we actually end up with more supply than we have at the moment. So here is the speculation bubble, and here is people going back down a little bit on the possibility, I think, of actually seeing the end results being more supply. Now in fermionic condensates, it's a different story. We see that the speculation started up, and here people are willing to go up quite substantially. So we had, god damn it, currently selling for 89,000 ISK. We can see that there's not a lot of sell orders anymore. In fact, this was completely bought out, and we had to buy opportunity at 51,000 ISK. So that's definitely a very nice markup at the moment. Again, this is all speculation. This is clearly fully inspired by the dev blog, but one thing to note is we still don't know for sure what the impact is going to be, so I would not be surprised if we actually have some serious dumping going on as well, and some serious volatility in the moon materials in the upcoming weeks up until CCP actually announces numbers and announces when it's going to be deployed. Here is the Ferrite Carbide, was actually in a really high spot as well, and this one is going down a little bit, quite interesting. So yeah, a very opposite action to the fermionic condensates in Ferrite Carbide. Giving ground a little bit, so no sign of speculation in this market basically, probably because it was in such a high place. Next up, we've got the ferrogel. That is obviously also been speculated up to 1 year high, up to 44,000, but the dumping is already happening. We can see that we're giving back ground, crossing the 20-day moving average in the last few days. Here I'm seeing that pattern of moon materials. Yeah, maybe. What will CCP announce? Let's buy. Let's make sure that we have the ferrogel. Oh, we still don't know the numbers. It could be more, and the market is going back down here. Fullerite next was in a high place, not a lot of speculation in this. This was actually what I was expecting. I've said a lot that look for bottom prices, look for lower ends of the scale if you want to make an investment, and I think a lot of people basically kept thinking that way as well. A little bit in crystalline carbonite, definitely in the fermionic condensates, but stuff like the Fullerites that were actually 700 were above average. Nope, they're not gonna make moves on this one until more information comes out. Here are the hypersynaptic fibers. Yeah, a bit of a jump up, definitely a volume spike here as well. 11k, less than 9,000, currently selling for 11,000 almost, but I think this will be very short-lived. Nanotransmitters next. Here, very clearly, you can see the spike here. We were trading okay, decently low, decently normal. And then here, the run-up, expecting moon changes, moon mining changes. And now here, we actually have the dipping back down. The real question is going to be, how far down are we going to go again? Currently selling for 3,000 ISK. Obviously, if you bought at the right time here, December, January, you're still making some money, but it's pretty obvious that there is no uniform expectation of higher price or anything like that just yet. There is a lot of speculation though, just like here in the non-linear metamaterials. In fact, we went up to 21,000 ISK from 19,000 ISK, and we're already back down where we started at. So here's a bit of a speculative bubble before the dev block, which honestly, you could say, well, CSM leaks. It's only logical. CCP has said several times that they are going to work on the moon materials. We had this bit of a leak where we have this general vibe that the resource gathering might get a serious update, and so it's actually normal. I've been saying since, I think, after the summer, slowly look at those moon materials if you're looking to make investments on that. If you want to be ready for the CCP announcements, it's months before this that you should have been looking at that, and I'm definitely not alone. A lot of people do look on that market, and at some point, of course, someone is going to pull the trigger, someone is going to make bigger investments, and that is going to create a bit of hype, an increase in price. And apparently the dev block hasn't really convinced people that we're going to see higher prices just yet. Here are the phenolic composites, also went up, but not outside of the normal trade range, I would say. We're in a high place, of course, but it's not that crazy. Photonic metamaterials, bit of a jump up here as well. Well, pretty low price point as well. We had this one bubble in December, January, which was not bad. Less than 10,000, selling for 13,000 here. Bit of a bubble, but again, pretty subdued, nothing all too crazy. Plasmionic metamaterials staying at a low price. Nobody's moving on that one. Ceramic fibers was coming down from a high price again. We're back up there, but basically there's not all that much to say here. Terahertz metamaterials staying at a high point, no major spike. Here we have titanium carbide actually going down in price, and then we have tungsten carbide staying really stable as well. So some action, for instance, in the fermionic condensates. That's your one winner really. If you've bought these for 51,000 ISK, you can currently sell them for a really good profit. A couple of them were preemptively speculated on, but those are generally already giving back a lot of that territory, because people just don't know yet if we are going to end up with more supply, less supply, and all of those questions are still up in the air. Still, we have an idea of what's happening, what is going to happen, and it's all about keeping a close eye on that. Again, if you still want to take the gamble, then look at some of these lower going moon materials. You might want to pick some of that up, but to be honest, I think that the analysis that, considering that CCP has been willing to basically flood the mineral market already, I would not be surprised that we actually get some really generous supplies from that new mechanic as well. And overall, I think the effect on the market is actually decently restricted, which is normal because it was definitely low on details when it comes to the dev block itself. And that's going to be it for this ETH Talk, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.